I'm still processing the waves of wisdom that we received from the Shikshamana course that we had a few weeks ago. So we had an in-house course of training for the Shikshamanas at the Abbey to receive the wisdom of the elders who have gone before us and to prepare us in some way for the full ordination that will come at some point for each of us. And one of the books that was recommended to us to read was this book by Thich Nhat Hanh called Joyfully Together, The Art of Building a Harmonious Community. And so I turned to this little book that's full of wisdom and thought to share some thoughts that I had on various things that Tay says about building Sangha. And so what really struck me in one of the first few pages of this book was a couple of sentences that I'll read. It says, those of us who live in a Sangha need to emphasize the practices that are part of Sangha building. They are even more important than studying the sutras, practicing sitting meditation, listening to Dhamma talks, or attending Dhamma discussions. And the big question of why? Like, what could be more important than learning the teachings? And then I just had to look at my own experience to see that when I'm in conflict with someone, when I have ignorance, attachment, or anger raging through my mind, then I can't receive the teachings even if my body is physically there. My mind is distracted, it's in turmoil, it's agitated. And so this aspect of living in harmony, living together in a way that is peaceful and with mindfulness and with the intent to do no harm and be of benefit, aspects of Sangha building, then that is necessary for me to be able to study, sit, practice. And looking at what he means in terms of Sangha building, in one aspect, it's just living with the community. And he says, we have to experience life in the Sangha, which means interacting with members of the Sangha, whether the interaction is pleasant or unpleasant. That will give us enough understanding about how members of the Sangha can live in harmony together. And that is what I found here in my experience, that it is just being here through the various ups and downs of my own mind and seeing others work with theirs, that I get to know myself and others for the ordinary sentient beings that we are, that are under the control of afflictions and karma, and to then use that as a way to build compassion and understanding for both myself and others. And seeing that mirror, and that I might be able to see or pick fault in others for certain problems, and go, oh, I have exactly the same thing inside of me. Maybe with a different person or a different situation or in a different way, but it's exactly the same. And so then to use that mirror of life and community to not judge, but rather instead build compassion. And then also to build that energy to want to transform myself, because I see that I am just the same, maybe just in a slightly different way. And then another few lines about what is Sangha building. So when we sit together in silent meditation, cook together, clean together, make decisions together, we are building harmony in our capacity to understand, accept, and love each other as brothers and sisters. And so this was alive for me, thinking that we're going to go into 3-month silent retreat, where we may not be verbally communicating with each other, but we communicate a whole lot outside of that framework just by how we move through space. What's going on in our mind that is expressed by how we move our body or how we do certain tasks. That we affect each other deeply, even without verbal communication. And so then it's a responsibility and a privilege then to be able to watch our mind and to see, how am I contributing to this shared space that we live in through how I am working with my mind and moving my body and carrying out these various tasks. And that it can be a source of joy, knowing that we can contribute to others just by how we move. And he gives a few examples that really related to various aspects of the Shikshmana course here. And he gives the example of the mindfulness bell that they use in his centers, where, even if you are out in the garden or working, when the mindfulness bell is rung, if you come back to yourself by means of mindful breathing, you are contributing to the Sangha energy and making it stronger. This is your contribution to building Sangha. And so here we might not have mindfulness bells that are rung throughout the day, but we try to set and reset our bodhicitta motivation before we do various activities, and then to dedicate the merit of doing that. And each time we do that, we lead that for others, we do it silently for ourselves. That is a way that we are building Sangha, that we are contributing to the shared energy of non-harm, being of benefit, and looking beyond just this life, no matter what the task is that we're involved in. And then he mentions walking meditation, and that with each step you take in mindfulness, your mindfulness is able to help and support the people around you. Your presence is essential to your friends in the practice. Do not deprive them of this opportunity to profit from your energy of mindfulness. And for me, the 45 minutes of chanting that we were doing each day during the course was an embodiment of this, in how we weren't speaking to each other. We entered into the room. Most of us were there like 5 minutes early, and we just stood there waiting. And then we were led to stand in the form and to set our motivation. And then to begin this 45 minutes of very beautiful chanting, where one half of the room was going down while the others chanted, the other half of the room stands up, chants while the others bow down. And it was just stunning to feel how inspired and supportive that was to the embodied harmony of us all paying attention to go down at the same time, to come up at the same time, to breathe in a way that the sound of the Dhamma was not broken, so we're not breathing all at the same time and the chanting stops, to find ways to balance the sound on each side of the room so that it was still melodious. And then also to feel that energy of the power when we all start to chant together again, and that boost of all voices being heard together. That I could feel the presence of everyone in that room. And when one of us was not there for a few times because of due to sickness or other responsibilities, it was noticeable for me. And I appreciated and felt the gap of your presence there. And what you contributed to the sound, but also the energy, the mindfulness, the virtue that was happening there. And also he says that, the Sangha needs your energy, and you also need the energy of the Sangha. If you do not practice together with the Sangha, you are not able to enjoy the collective energy of the Sangha, and you will go hungry. And connecting into that analogy of food or nourishment, I could feel how nourishing it was to be in that room with everyone's sincere practice and the intention and that sound, to see how it meant more than the words could express, in terms of, this is what it means to be with a group intent on virtue, of non-harm, of wanting to be of benefit, with having priorities in life that are bigger than self or the 8 worldly concerns or career and profit. To see that, to see virtue embodied, goodwill embodied, and it's like, there is good in the world, and how that uplifts and encourages, and to feel that there is support for me in my practice through your simple presence there, joining in that shared activity. And so carrying that on to outside of that just one activity, but that, to not deprive each other of our presence of mindfulness and care for all the activities that we do, turning up to meditation sessions, turning up to discussion groups, turning up to meals, to dishes, our chores, to the various things that we do here, that our simple presence with our mind intent on virtue contributes so much, even if we don't say anything. And lastly, one of those remarks that rose the question of why was, Te says, the responsibility of any monk, nun, or lay person living in the Sangha is to stand beautifully alongside other trees. What does that mean? And then the end of that paragraph elaborates that the truly important thing is that we learn to stand beautifully and joyfully together with the rest of the Sangha. Yeah, and for me it's like, oh, it's just a matter of being part of the group, showing up and seeing that there is purpose in being together with a shared vision, working towards being of benefit, and that if I can work with my mind to just show up and contribute in whatever way I can, there is benefit to that. I think as Venerable Chunden's mentioned before, in the context of, I think, a Taiwanese nun rejoicing at just being in one of the monastic rituals that we do, entering into Varsa or Pravarana or the stick ceremony that we've done recently. Just, we sit and we watch I think 23 people this time, 17 to 23 people, one by one, do the same thing, say the same thing. But how wonderful it is to sit in a room full of people intent on virtue, holding precepts, looking beyond their own nose, and just to rejoice in that, and to wish that, may this opportunity come about for all other sentient beings who, just like me, want happiness and not to suffer. So as we head into retreat, into a silent space where we will turn our attention inward to dig deep, may we show up and joyfully support each other to do that work.